How are you, my internet family, and welcome to not just a new year, but a new decade. For my first video of this new decade, I kind of wanted to address the topic of aging and getting older, entering my fourth decade on this planet. While I'm happier now than I ever have been, this video is going to be painfully honest. When I was in my early 20s, I watched a TED Talk here on YouTube called 30 is not the new 20.
So what do you think happens when you pat a 20-something on the head and you say you have 10 extra years to start your life? Nothing happens. You have robbed that person of his urgency and ambition. When a lot has been pushed to your 30s, there is enormous 30-something pressure. I'm not discounting 20-something exploration here, but I am discounting exploration that's not supposed to count.
I shall link it down below so you can watch it after you have watched this video, but it's all about claiming your 20s, and it's informed by psychologists, sociologists, neurologists, fertility specialists, and I watched it and I sat back and I thought, what do I want this decade to be? Do I want to settle down right now with this person I've been in a relationship with for 3 years? At the time I'd been with him for 3 years, and I was like, no, not really. My head isn't there. I decided I wanted my 20s to be all about learning about myself, who I am, about the world, and building the foundations of the person that I wanted to be. Essentially, I didn't want to waste my 20s, and I didn't. It's a bloody weird, touchy subject, right? Because in many ways, 30 is the new 20 in that once upon a time when you turn 20, you'd be essentially getting ready to settle down, preparing to buy a home. Women didn't work. The world used to be a very different place. And nowadays, we are all expected to go and get degrees. We're all trying to figure things out with how fast the world is changing, and houses are extremely expensive.
The average price of a home has risen.
Ireland is facing one of the biggest housing crises since the foundation of the state.
What 30 looks like now is very different. But the thing is, there's not an extra 10 years being wedged in there biologically. You know what I mean? I don't want to scare anyone, but I also don't want to lie and try and encourage people to treat their 20s like an extended adolescence, because we're not getting an extra decade. So yeah, regardless what age you are watching this or where you're at in your life, how your life is looking versus how you want it to look, I still hope you're going to gain an awful lot from this video, because I'm just going to be really candid about all of the changes I have been experiencing, physically, emotionally, mentally, everything with age. And hopefully you can kind of look at that and then maybe, make some adjustments in your own life, or just kind of feel a bit more calm about certain things, or feel more prepared for certain things. That's what I'm here for. I am your Irish YouTube granny. So yeah, if you're not a subscriber already, do subscribe, ring the notification bell, and like this video if you find any value in it whatsoever. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Let's go. I asked over on my Instagram what you guys would like me to address about turning 30. The big 3-0. I have taken the subjects that came up the most in your questions from my stories. And yeah, we're going to do this, right? Physical aging came up a lot. So wrinkles, body dropping, grey hair, teeth falling out. All these things I am experiencing. Your girl has lost 2 teeth already. I am constantly picking out grey hairs in between dye jobs, and I am definitely not mentally ready to just let my hair turn naturally grey. I am seriously in awe of women who can do that. They're like, right, this is what I look like now. All of the socialization and the kind of media posts about hanging on to your youth and all of that has really affected me, and I'm never going to claim otherwise. I'm definitely one of those people who wants to look not just well maintained but young. I'm just going to say it. I do. I want to look young. And you know what? I spent so much of my youth wasting my time being insecure about things that I was never appreciating my youth and my perky tits and my even my oily skin, even the fact that I had acne. As you get older, your skin tends to be more dry, and I never appreciated having all of my teeth. I never appreciated my hair just being its natural colour all the time, and just how easy it was to kind of roll out of bed and look fresh and dewy and ready to go. There is a fork in the road right now before me, and one route is to fight it all and, to go and get filler and to go and get Botox and then post children, I'm doing this because we'll get to this part, boob job, tummy tuck, like kind of go down that route where I'm trying really hard to look the same as like late 20s Melanie. And yeah, like it's frustrating because right now I feel like I look like me and I would like to keep looking like me. I've never been happy looking like myself. With age has come a lot of confidence. And that's one part of the whole like physical aging thing. Like with time I've discovered my bag of fucks to give is a lot emptier. I feel a lot more comfortable naked, even though I am covered in stretch marks and, you know, my boobies are not as... Part of that I think is that I look after myself a lot more now that I'm older, because without the littlest lifestyle tweaks I find myself absolutely exhausted. You know, the thought of a dinner starting at 8 p.m. at night just sends me into this, like, I go and get all of the coffee and I get tired more. If I eat the wrong thing, I suffer for days with my digestion, you know, stuff that didn't really affect me when I was a teenager or in my early 20s. I'd be well able for like a 2-day session where I'm barely sleeping and, you know, at a music festival, for example. You feel the repercussions of your lifestyle more with age. But yeah, that kind of leads you to take better care of yourself. So in general, I feel quite good a lot of the time. But yeah, in turn, I eat less sugar. So hopefully I won't lose more teeth and I won't end up with more dentures or implants. And I also spend a lot more time on my skincare, as you'll know well if you're a regular viewer of my channel. And that helps. But the thing is, everything drops with age, and there's only so much skincare can do for, you know, it'll make your skin look healthier and the quality of your skin will be better. But yeah, so this is back to the fork in the road. You accept it or you don't. And I would like to age gracefully, and I kind of want to go down this road of accepting that I am getting older and I am going to be looking different every couple of years. And I want to make the most of what I've got, but without being too invasive. So for me, it's like hair dye, cool. Skincare, cool. It's an individual thing and it's up to each person to kind of deal with that kind of crisis in their own way. But it really is like, you've got two ways to go about it, and I want to lean more into the embracing my natural self without putting too much pressure on myself to be perfect and to be completely at ease with aging, because it is a kind of an uncomfortable thing. Well, it can be in a world where so much is expected of women, and women are very much judged on how they look in so many different areas of life. The next couple of topics are very tied together, and it's being single after 30 and babies after 30. And a lot of you wanted reassurance when it comes to these things, and I have so much to say on these, but I'm going to try and not ramble for too long. This strange thing happens when people turn 30, and she does mention it in the TED Talk about how it's like musical chairs, and people kind of just sit down and settle down with whoever they're with at the time.
But grabbing whoever you're living with or sleeping with when everyone on Facebook starts walking down the aisle is not progress.
I was very intentional about my relationship, my current relationship. I knew him for years and years and years, and I always fancied him. I always had my eye on him. I went through phases where I thought I would never be good enough for him, or, you know, he has his choice of so many girls. And yeah, like I remember being in my early 20s and my mom kind of saying, you know, so are you thinking about having children? Like, do you want children? And I remember thinking, I really do want a family. I picture myself when I'm 40 or 50 with children, but I don't want to go and have them. It's like I wanted my life to look a certain way at a certain point in time, but I just couldn't get my head around doing that at that point in time because I was doing a degree and I just was sorting through all of my mental health issues, and there was no way. The person I was with as well, like our relationship wasn't right, like it was never right, and I kind of couldn't get my head around the idea of being married to that person or just having a lifelong relationship. I always wanted a life partner, and I know that looks different for a lot of people. Many people don't believe in marriage, and that's fine. A lot of people have open relationships. There are many ways to go about it, and I dated around in my 20s. I tried all of the things. I dated a couple. I had many on the go at once. I dated people that were really wrong for me. I dated people that were right for me, but it was bad timing. Going back to being intentional with choosing a life partner, I spent my 20s trying to figure out what were the qualities that I wanted in a person, and that was always really important to me. Like, it's not like I set a deadline of, oh, I have to be with someone who matches all of these things by this point in time, But again, I didn't want to waste my 20s. That's why I walked out on a 5-6 year relationship in my late 20s. And I did that knowing that that decision might lead me to possibly not have my own family, or to change my plans and then adopt children instead, which I'm still open to doing. It depends so much on where you're at in your head and on what you want, but you can't really just sit around and expect for everything to line up for you. I was trying to really put myself out there, and I was kind of looking at, you know, all of the acquaintances I'd made over the years, and I was always thinking, like, is there anyone that I do know that I think would be a really good match for me? And my current fiance and I, we kept missing each other. Like, one of us would be with someone and then the other one would be single, or one of us would be moving away and then the other one would. That kept happening for so many years. And then we just kind of finally had this window of time, and I think we both realized we could really make something of our feelings for one another, and we gave them space to grow. We dated for a few months before making our relationship official, and after we did make it official, it was only a few more months before we were thinking about, you know, the long term, because I was at a point in my life where I would not go into a relationship if I didn't see it contributing to this blueprint of my life. Example, I knew that I wanted to live in Dublin here in Ireland, so whoever I would be settling down with, it would be important to me that they would want to be here too, because I didn't want to be away from my family. I knew that I wanted to have children. I knew that I wanted a lot of humor. I knew that I wanted a really good sex life. I knew that I wanted someone who is kind, loyal, patient. You know, you go through all these relationships, and the whole point of it is to be like figuring out what you do and you don't want. And I've known people to say to me, you know, oh, I'm never going to meet the right person for me. But like every few months, circumstances change, your life changes, you find yourself in these new environments. I kind of had the light bulb moment when I was around 27, and I was dating someone that I found myself kind of falling for. They were also Irish and stuff like that, but I just remember it was a couple of months in, and I remember I realized certain things that they just weren't what I wanted for my life. Like, this person was like really, really driven, which I admired and I still admire, but like to the point that that was kind of consuming their mind, and they didn't have much space for kind of just having fun with a partner, you know. And I just communicated like, this isn't really going to work for me. Whereas, you know, I think a less evolved Melanie would have been kind of clinging to that, you know, and been like, but no, like this could work. This could. It's like trying to put a jigsaw piece into a part of the puzzle where it doesn't go. And you got to stop that and just enjoy your life, enjoy dating, and don't stay with someone because you think you won't have other options. There are billions of people on the planet, and the best time to start working on your lifelong relationship is before you have it. If things hadn't worked out with Thomas and I'm sure that I may have eventually met someone else who fit with me really well. But even if I didn't, if I was single right now, I think I would be looking at, you know, when it comes to fertility, that's what we're going to get on now, I would be looking at my options and thinking, right, I'm still going to do this because this is what I want. Almost all evidence on fertility states that women's fertility kind of peaks around like 28, and after 35 it declines faster. So you can still have babies in your 30s. Even some women have babies in their early 40s, but it is definitely an awful lot harder. Even in your late 20s, it can take a year of trying to conceive, and our bodies find childbirth and pregnancy and all that easier in our early 20s and our late teens. But unfortunately, a lot of us just are not in the place or the headspace at all at that age to know how to boil a fucking egg, let alone how to figure out career, house, children, relationship, mental health, all of that, you know. So I knew that I would want to start having children in my 30s. I remember saying this to my mom years and years ago, and she was a little bit concerned about it because, you know, experts, like, they don't want to scare us, but they also want us to have the facts so we can make informed decisions, because there's a lot of myths that go around and a lot of like, oh sure, it's fine. You know, I know this woman who had a baby when she was like 43 from IVF. Fertility treatments, they're not 100% of a backup, you know. They don't always work, and the older you are when you're starting them, and they cost thousands as well. But if being a parent is extremely important to you, it is something you kind of have to be thinking about. It is amazing what they can do now. Like, I know at least 3 people who never even had periods from things like PCOS, and they now have children thanks to infertility treatments. Thomas and I both really want children. He would like more children than what I would be kind of willing to carry for him, for us, but we would like to kind of start trying quite soon. And no, our setup is not perfect. We essentially live together, like we sleep together every night. We go back and forth between his family home and the house that I rent with my dad and my brother. Not everything has to be picture perfect. Like, you know, you follow these people on Instagram and they get the house first and then they do the wedding and then they have the baby and everything lines up perfectly. And that doesn't always work out. We're saving for a mortgage, and my dad is going to be living with us because, you know, at his age he wouldn't be able to go and get a mortgage now. My parents divorced years ago, so, you know, families have their own kind of setups and situations, and we find that renting together, like all paying rent together, enables us to save for a house, and we want to buy a house that is where we're kind of going to stay for at least 10-20 years. The property market in Ireland is a little bit of a shitstorm, you know, so kind of we had to look at what are our priorities. You know, do we want to be in our great perfect house with lots of space first? I'm already 30 and a half. And if we kept pushing it back and back and back, we might end up being faced with, oh, this isn't happening. I'm not getting pregnant. Why not? And it does scare me. My biggest fear for years has been PCOS, which is quite common. The main character in my first novel, Erin, has PCOS and has this massive fear of not having children. Her mother died when she was very young, and she's just left someone who she was about to get married to, so it's this big theme of the book, and I feel like the book has done so well and has resonated with so many women because it's quite a taboo thing to talk about. You have a lot of hardcore feminists kind of getting real annoyed at these conversations when I feel like as women we should be able to make our own choices and have these discussions about these very important subjects to us without this kind of judgment coming from other women. It really fucking pisses me off. But at the same time, I don't understand the judgment of women who don't want to be mothers. I know loads of women who are my age who don't want children, and I would never like quiz them about it or press them or be like, what about when you're older? You know, they are a full whole ass adult. They can make that decision by themselves. But it is something that I've been trying to kind of open discussion on my channel recently because I know it worries a lot of people, and by the feedback I got on Instagram stories, I know it's on a lot of your minds about babies. You know, I have a lot of lesbian followers, I have a lot of bisexual followers, and you know, when I was single, like I didn't know if I would end up with a man or a woman, and I had these chats with my dad about if I got a girlfriend, because I remember I was dating this girl for a few months, and I was kind of saying to my dad, like, what if I do end up with a woman, like, and then obviously the whole sperm thing is going to come into the conversation, and I'd be watching couples on YouTube who are like female and they'd be talking about the options of having children that they had, and it did sound a lot more difficult. So that is a big conversation to be having, and it's something that is on a lot of our minds, and I don't think you should feel ashamed at all about it. Know that you're not alone in having these thoughts. Like if you are, say, 32 and you're in quite a toxic relationship and you want to walk away, and then your brain might be like, oh, but that's my only chance to have children. It's a valid concern. My advice to anyone in a situation like that is just like you and your mental health are the most important thing, and bringing a child into a really awful relationship is just, it isn't that good. And I know if you grew up with parents who didn't really get along and they weren't right for each other and they didn't end up with each other for the right reasons, you'll know that and you'll want to avoid repeating that. In summary, you don't have to have children. You can have children in your 30s. I'm hoping to do that. If it doesn't work, there are other options. There are fertility options. They're not 100%. I'm not going to lie. But there's a lot of fucking children in the world that need to be adopted. So we should all be open to adopting children. You know, being a parent is so much more than ejecting said human out of your vagina. Being a parent is being there, being involved in that child's life, contributing to who they become as an adult, and that bond, that friendship, that kind of parent-child dynamic. Like, there's so much there, and it doesn't matter if the baby does not come from your specific gene pool. That's just my opinion, and I think that if we're all kind of open to that, it calms the shit down about the biological clock. I'm only touching on this, but money and pension and stuff came up quite a lot. I still don't have a pension. Yes, I'm shit. I have a lot more money than I did when I was 20, and it's very nice to be able to just go to the food shopping or whatever and not have to look at the prices of everything. And I think it's very good for a person to experience living on pennies. It did a lot for me, and now I appreciate my money so much more, and I have so much of it saved, and with every year that passes I'm becoming more thrifty, and yeah, like just that financial stability, I guess, that we don't often experience in our early 20s. It's really nice, and it is one of the best parts, I think, about getting older, in that, like, the stress that it takes away is immense. The stress that you feel when it comes to money in your 20s, my God, there should be some kind of prep for that in school, because I was not ready. It teaches you things though. So yeah, that's a big pro about getting older, is just kind of feeling more established in, like, your career and stuff like that. That's why I think, like, even though it's never too late and you're never too old to go back to study something or to start a new business or to go on a new career path, the younger you are when you realize what your calling is, you should get working on it, even in the background, even as a hobby. Just start getting the ball rolling on it. If you're 20 and you fancy being a doctor one day, like, no one's going to ever show up at your doorstep being like, here's a position as a doctor. You have to put in all that work, and you're not, like I said, like, you're not getting an extra 10 years, you know, and it's much harder to put all of that pressure onto your 30s, where you kind of DOS throughout your 20s, and then you hit 30 and you're like, oh, well, I actually do want a family, and I also would like a house, and I'd also like to be with someone, and I'd also like to go back to college and do the States. It's just so much to put on 1 decade or 2 decades, because we can't all just, like, stay in the family home forever and just go and talk about sex, baby. The sex is so much better. Oh my God. Let me know down below what age you are and what your sex drive is, because, like, my sex drive is definitely higher now than it was, in terms of even just, like, frequency of how much I want sex and how much I want to masturbate and all whatnot, and I enjoy it so much more. Definitely think the increased self-confidence comes into this, like, feeling more at home in my body, feeling so much more used to my body. I understand my body better. I find it much easier to climax now with someone, like the someone being my partner. But just in general, like, over the years in my 20s, like, I'd often feel this pressure to kind of fake it, this pressure to perform, and there was an expectation to always be something in the bedroom. Like, you know, there was always this thing in me that kind of wanted to perform and be like the best that person had ever had. I think a lot of that comes from pornography and the kind of performative aspect of that, which, like, that's not what sex is about for me anymore. Like, yeah, we have the play and, you know, try things and stuff, but there's so much more connecting involved with it, and, like, just being really in touch with my body and feeling like one. I remember being, like, 18 and thinking I was a little sex kitten, and I didn't have a clue. I was just kind of going through the motions and kind of trying to, like, blow my ex's mind, and I never really cared about, like, what was I getting out of it, and, like, you know, was it loving, was it passionate, or was it just, you know, hard and fast, you know, just like, it's just taken on this whole new form and this whole new shape, and it's beautiful, and I would love to write an entire book about sex one day. I love talking about sex, and then old people sex was something that came up a lot. Like, am I nervous about getting older and, like, sex changing and all that? And I really amn't, you know. And even though men, you know, they can get older and find it harder to get, like, I watched this beautiful short film on Ex Confessions, which is a great pornography website. It's very aimed at women, and a lot of women are involved in making it, and yeah, it's awesome. But there's this short film involving this older couple, and in it he talks about how he can't even get his penis hard and stuff, but they, like, have sex every day, and what they define as sex and what they do, it literally shows everything. Like, it shows them going down on each other and all sorts. It was amazing. It was really fascinating, and it was beautiful, and just seeing how they treat it as this kind of window of opportunity to connect and to tell each other all of the things that they love about each other, and oh, it was so amazing. And yeah, like, I'm never gonna let that, like, slide off. I understand that there's going to be times in my life, like, after babies again, but, like, after stuff like that where your hormones are kind of a bit all over the place and you just are not kind of feeling it, or like if one of us breaks a hip or something. That shit just happens, and you just have to talk openly with your partner. But yeah, God, I feel way sexier now than I used to. Like, have you seen my most recent Instagram post? I would never have posted something like that a few years ago, because I'm trying to like inspire people to, like, I feel sexy in my pale skin without tan on, and I feel sexy just like with no makeup on, and you know, things like that. And I want to inspire other people to just really get in tune with themselves as well. Friendship for me, you know, it's a two-way street, and some friendships are meant to kind of come and go, and they serve a purpose at a certain point in your life. You might have an amazing friendship for a couple of weeks with someone, or for a couple of years. They all have their own life cycle, but there are certain people that you meet and you just really, really do connect with, and you can be really candid and honest with them. And I want to hang on to those people, and I make more of an effort with, there's about like 5 people probably I would try and make more of an effort with. But you know, when you're older and you have more responsibilities and stuff, you can't see your friends as much, which does kind of suck. And you might have friends that don't live anywhere near you, and you might have to have these kind of long distance friendships with them. And it comes with building a career and building, like, you know, a marriage, like a life partnership. Your time is a lot more limited, so finding people who are really understanding of that and don't expect the world of you. And you know, you might not see them for a few weeks, and then when you do meet up for lunch, it's like no time has passed at all. That is what friendship means to me now. And I don't really have these friend breakups. I have these more kind of like just like drifting apart from people, and it just feels very natural and right. And sometimes I do try and force a relationship, like a friendship, to kind of remain as it was, because I don't want to let go of it. They'd be more like those people that I want to hang on to for life. And if I find that we're drifting, I'm like, no, wait, come back. Go back. This happened recently with there's a couple of people that I've invited to my wedding, and you know, we used to be extremely close, and for whatever reason we've just not really been talking very much over the past, I'd say, like about 2 years. They've been in new relationships as well, and there's just been less effort on both parts. And I kind of, you know, you do have these days where you're like, oh, maybe that one is worth hanging on to, and all you can do is make a bit of effort, see if it's returned. If it's not returned, just be like, okay, I'm glad I knew you. I don't even need your love. The final thing you talked about is fear of death and, you know, religion and stuff like that. And I've said before, like, I'm not Catholic, but I do consider myself very spiritual. I meditate. I believe that everything in the world is just kind of energy, and we're just all kind of experiencing the universe, that we're the universe experiencing itself, that we're all connected to one another. And that would have to be an entire separate video, so I want to know if you want to know about my thoughts on that stuff. But yeah, the way I think about all that, I'm not afraid of being dead. I'm definitely afraid of losing this life that I love so much, because it's not finished yet. Like, I don't feel like I've done so many of the things I want to do. I experience a lot of worry around losing other people, like fear of other people dying, because as I age, obviously other people age. Older people in my family are getting older, and they're obviously a lot more further along in their journey than I am. So it does happen more often where I'm lying down to go to bed at night, and I just close my eyes and I just think, I'm gonna die soon. One day everyone's gonna be dead. And I know it sounds so depressing, and I do get little freakouts about my health here and there. Like right now I'm waiting on a CT scan because of pains in my ovary. Lovely, lovely fertility worries, life worries. But you know, it's all just part of the ride, and we're all on the ride together. And anything you're feeling or experiencing or thinking, millions of other people have felt those things, gone through those things, talked to others about those things. So just like, please don't feel alone. Know that you have a lot more control over your future than some people might have you think. Like, if you have depression and your doctor tells you you have a chemical imbalance, that doesn't mean you are this chemical imbalance now and forever. Every day is a fresh start, and there's no point in sitting around being dissatisfied, regardless of where you're at, what you're going through right now. You can either keep doing that if it's working out for you, or you can identify places where you can make changes, do little things differently, and dream bigger and see where the world takes you. And yeah, just kind of accept that one day you may look like that mad granny down the road. But sure, you know, that's life. And I fucking love old people. I want to chat down below about getting older people, so comment with any thoughts that I have sparked from this video chat. Subscribe, like the video, and stick around because I'll have another video next week. I'm excited for 2020. I'm excited for my 30s, and I will see you again very, very soon.